Hello everyone, it is Monday the 20th of August 2018, and I thought we'd start off our garden tour on this side as opposed to over there like we normally do, and we'll go over some of the smaller trees that rarely make it on camera to start. First up, we've got the Granny Smith apple. This was a transplant this year, as opposed to the other ones who are a full year old. This one, we had a Granny Smith that had some root rot, so this one was planted right away in April to take its place. And it really does look very attractive, and it's quite popular with the ants, which I thought was kind of funny. Maybe ants are going to be a key pollinator in the future. And then over here, this is my cross-pollinator for the Bartlett pear. I don't remember the name of it, and I'm not entirely certain what the fruit is supposed to taste like even. It's been so long since I've thought of the literature. I've got it around somewhere. When we start getting fruit, I'll go back in my email archive and figure it out. But I would say this is the smallest of the 5 fruit trees that I have in my orchard, so you can kind of get a feel for like this. I'm hoping that in time these all grow out and level out with one another, but it's hard to say, only being one full year in. Planted these all, I think, in June of 2017, so it's really only been 14 months since they've all been in the ground. Now let's go on in and take a look at the garden. Did a lot of things this weekend, spent quite a good deal amount of time out here. What you might notice right away, right here, I finally put up the rest of the wire on the top of the raspberry trellis here. Can you tell? It's green as opposed to silver, but that's okay. I had just like a couple feet left over on the end of 2 spools, and I decided to finally put it up, so that feels good. And right below that then, you'll notice, aha, it's the rabbit fence. He finally put it up. Yes, he did. And I did it on both sides. So we have to actually go through the door this time. So we'll start underneath the beans, and you'll notice I did a lot of cleaning here over the weekend too. I took out all of the peas. They were just pretty much dry, desiccate hulls as it was, and I also took out pretty much most of the beans, except when I, forgot about one here and there. I'm doing this with hopes that, as we get some rain and the weather marches on, the beans that are here will reflower, and I can get another harvest of beans a little bit later in the season. Although my hopes are mixed because some of these plants look a little worse for wear. Then over on the other side, there's literally nothing here because it was just peas, except for this little guy on the bottom, and I'm not certain what it's going to be. Looks like it's got a flowering head, but I guess time will just tell. There you go. Time will tell what that ends up being. This is where I need to do my reseeding. I think I want to reseed some peas, and hopefully we'll get a fall harvest on them if I'm lucky. But that's okay. You experiment and you learn new things. All right, we'll get back to the big arched trellis, but I wanted to bring you over here and just slowly pan by all the raspberries so you can see the pollinators that are going crazy in there. It's pretty cool. It is a busy time of year, lots of bumblebees. We're already starting to harvest some of the raspberries, although the big harvest is right around the corner. Give it another couple weeks. So back again. This is pretty cool this time of year. So right off the bat, you can see that the coconut squash are starting to turn orange. So I think the sign is when they go from this dark bluish gray, which you can see around the outsides, to a full orange, that they are ripe. And I was looking up some recipes. Apparently they kind of cook like you'd cook a spaghetti squash, although I don't think they're spaghetti-like on the inside. Either way, we're going to find out. And then a lot of the decorative gourds are pretty much done. They're cool looking, you know what I mean? And that's, pretty much all that they have going for them is just being cool looking. If I bring the camera over, you can kind of see one of the big pumpkins sneaking out right there between the leaves. I've got 3 good ones, 1 on the ground and 2 just above the ground. Panning away from the arched trellis for a little while, we'll get over here. Did a lot of cleaning. You'll notice that I cleaned out all of the like the broccoli that used to be over there and a bunch of weeds in between. You'll see that in a second. But I also spent a lot of time over here in the corn, cleaning out just all the dead stalks that used to be in this row and in between. So I harvested 1 ear of corn over here in the popcorn. In fact, I think it was the piece of corn that was right adjacent to the one that we had on last week's video. It was right about here. And this is supposed to be a dark strawberry kind of burgundy colored popcorn, and it turned out to be yellow, like the sweet corn here. So note to self for next year, do not plant more than one variety of corn because the cross-pollinating is not so good. But I thought it was kind of funny. Remember, for those of you who have been longtime followers, I used to do ground cherries, and they kind of spring up in my yard now as weeds, and I've got a tiny little plant, a tiny little ground cherry there with a couple cherries on it, so I'm just going to let that go and harvest the whopping 5 as a little snack. Just my little, cute thing as time goes on. So this is a weird shot, but I no longer have just the wire sitting there not doing anything. As you can see, I took a lot of time this weekend and I actually nailed it to the perimeter fence. And then I did something with the stakes. So I've got the rabbit fence buried, maybe 3 inches or a full rectangle's worth underneath the wood chips there, all the way around to the front. Now all's waiting for me to do is actually go through and make the purple picket fence when the time is right. So this right here behind me is where the broccoli used to be. I think it must have been on Friday or maybe it was early Saturday. I just went through and I did a couple different wheelbarrow full, one of good, produce crop that I could put in the compost, and another one of weeds, and the third one was mostly weeds and a little bit of stuff like this. So I took out all the broccoli, took out all the weeds, and I just did that cleaning that I said was, long overdue. And the nice thing about the raised beds and then the mulched ground is it really wasn't a lot of work. In years past, the weeding and cleaning that I've had to do has really been a pain in the rear, but it was just, I would say normal this year, nothing too exciting. What I want to do, I've got that area over here by the zucchini, right behind me where the broccoli used to be, and then that entire bed in the front. All of this I'd like to reseed with some lettuce and spinach and carrots and beets and radishes in pretty sizable quantities. Carrots in particular, we put those in a lot of stew in the wintertime. So I might do this entire half here as carrots and hope we can get a harvest at the end of October or beginning of November before we get any bad frost dates. So fingers crossed, because I've never actually tried to do a fall garden before. Oh, little milk butterfly, hello. But it should be fun, should be kind of neat. Gotten a lot of tomatoes. I'd say we've made use out of 85% of them. We've tried a whole bunch of new recipes. Bridget made a really delicious sauce for our spaghetti squash. So we had spaghetti squash with homemade, tomato sauce. It's really, really good. We've made some salsa. That's been really quite delicious too. So, and we've given plenty of them away. So it's been a good use. We finally found the right amount of tomatoes to plant. You know what I mean? That's the thing when you do gardening year over year. You kind of learn, 1, you plant what you're going to eat, what you really like, and 2, you learn the quantities of plants in the ground to what that vegetable equates to in your house. The first year when we did anything, I think we planted 3 zucchini plants. 3 zucchini plants. This one plant alone gave us over a dozen. We were just drowning in zucchinis that first year, but you learn. That's part of the magic of gardening is you learn. So now I'm in the process. I'm really thinking ahead toward fall. I've got from Stark Brothers Nursery, Stark Bros, a couple different kinds of asparagus that I want to put in the beds. It'll take a while for those to get established, 2 full growing seasons. But that'll be an early spring perennial that'll just come up. You really don't have to do a whole lot to. And then I can plant some annuals in between that in whatever bed I decide to do. I want to find some... I don't know if I do this in the spring or what, but my Egyptian walking onions here, these are perennial. They come up no matter what. I'm going to do some research on onions. I'd like a big white onion that I just, have year after year. And I don't know if I have to always do those as annuals or if I can get a perennial variety. I need to find myself some Jerusalem artichokes, also known as sunchokes. They're a tuber essentially that people like to eat. I've heard they're pretty good looking, and they're, I think, a relative of the sunflower family, so they've got some pretty tall yellow flowers that the bees and other pollinators like. So I want to get more perennials in here, interspersed with things like the tomatoes and other annuals. So anyways, garden is going pretty good. Fall mindset, already starting to think out towards the 2019 garden, which is really, really exciting. And yeah, other than that, that's it. I'm just chilling. Our baby was due last Friday. We're still in the belly, so we're just anxiously waiting. The house is nice and clean, the garden is clean, and we're ready to go. So what's growing in your garden? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, happy gardening, happy woodworking, and I'll see you next time.